Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, all across the fruited plains. This is Gary Keith coming to you live from beautiful Raleigh, North Carolina. This is June 5th, 2023. I am your host tonight, the Doctor of Insurance. Our topic is the psychology of the sale. It's learning to get better at what we do and blessing lives and making a difference in the world in which we live. It's learning how to close more sales, increase your closing percentage, keep more business on the books, learning how to become more credible in your presentation, learning how to develop needs in a strong way, and learning how to make a connection with Miss Betty and Mr. Billy in a way that you've never done before, and learning how to get referrals from that and brand yourself and make this a career and build real relationships instead of the wham, bam, thank you, ma'am kind of stuff that most sales organizations teach, which are short-sighted, short-lived, and most of those people don't last in the business very long. We do things differently here. We want to teach you how to do it right to start with, and so that you can actually build something that's going to last, forever, and so that you never have to look at doing something else as long as you live. That's the way I look at this. I have fun while doing it, but I've become a master of it through the years by learning certain principles, certain precepts, certain concepts that if you'll take note of, that you'll actually apply, you'll see your results increase. This is not something that I've just dug up yesterday. These are tried and true and proven methods that actually work in the sales world. Doesn't matter what you're selling, really, but we happen to be talking about life insurance and helping people become better off when they pass away. So welcome tonight. It's good to have each and every body on here tonight. Get your pens poised, get your note-taking devices ready, because you cannot remember all the things we're going to be talking about in your head. You're going to actually need to take some notes, whether it's bullet points, and so that you can apply these things. If you're just listening, but not really applying it, it's probably not going to make much of an impact on what you're doing. But I want you to figure out one or two things in which we discuss on each of these training sessions that you're going to have the courage to take the next step and apply that principle. If you do, this becomes much more than just me spouting out words. It literally becomes a training workshop, something where you can actually put pen to paper, then take that, roll around your brain, ponder it, think about it, apply that principle, and get results. I'm going to tell you, it's the only way that I've been able to find a way to get better at what you're doing, to take that 25% closing percentage to 50, to take that 50 to 75, and take 75 to 90% closing in the final expense world. I know you can do it. I know I've done it. I've seen it. I've taught and trained others, hundreds of other agents, how to do the same thing. And I'm here tonight to teach you how to do the same and get better at what you're doing. All right. No need to spend all this money for leads if you can't close a sale. No need to get all these referrals if you can't close a sale. So it's about learning how to close the process of the sale. All right, so to kick off tonight, we're going to do a little bit of reviewing, and I need your help. I need to know, what have you been putting into practice so far that's either you're struggling with or that's working. I need you to come off of mute. You can raise your hand or you start speaking, but I really need some feedback, because if what I am doing here on Monday evenings is not either working or being applied, then we're just whistling Dixie, as they say down south. We're just wasting time, and I'm not a big believer in that. I'm a big believer in making impact, making a difference. So I need some folks to step up tonight and tell me, what have you been implementing? And I'm going to just rehash it for just a second. Did you learn more about your market? Remember us talking about that in the beginning? That was the first training that we did. Learning about your market, who Miss Betty is, who Mr. Billy is, what moves them, what excites them, what is that age demographics all about, what are their concerns, how do they live, how do they dress, what do they do every day, where do they spend their time, where do they spend their money? Have you applied some of the principles we've talked about on your market? That's number one. Number two, the second training section was learning how to do more than just a warm-up or a rapport building session but actually making a connection with people, connecting. Everyone communicates, but very few connect. That's not only just in sales, that's in relationships. That's in your marriage. That's with your boyfriend, girlfriend, fiance. That's with your parents. That's with your children. That's with your brothers and sisters and people that you associate with in the community of the church. Most of us are just interested in communicating. Very few of us connect. And connection is a lot more about listening than it is talking. So, as my good buddy Stephen Covey, and if you've read the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, give me a thumbs up or a hooray sign or something on the chat. If you've ever read the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, give me that thumbs up. And one of his chapters, which is a big one, seek first to understand, then to be understood. That's powerful. Good job, Rick. That's a great, great book. It's one of my favorite sales manuals, relationship manuals, marketing manuals, life manuals, is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If you haven't read that one and you're looking for a great book to help you in building relationships, that's a good one. That's one of my tops. So that second part of what we talked about was connecting. As much as you want to talk about yourself, refrain from it to a great degree. Oh yeah, you can dabble. Your goal is to get Miss Betty, Mr. Billy, your neighbor, your wife, your husband, your children, your family, talking about themselves and what's on their mind, instead of always offering your opinions when it's not asked for. That's hard. It really is hard. We want to solve other people's problems. We don't want to give them advice. We want to tell them what to do. We want to show them what's worked for you. We all do that. But the less of that we can do, the greater that we become in communication and as a communicator. Read that section from Covey. Shoot, that dude's a psychologist. I mean, he knows better than I do. Seek first, understand, and be understood. That was the second principle we talked. Number 3 is learning how to become more credible in your sales process. Do you remember that people are actually not buying a product, they're buying you? This thing is intangible, ladies and gentlemen. There is nothing to smell, there's nothing to taste, there's nothing to feel, there's nothing to see. You're selling an intangible product. You're selling yourself. I know we want to toot the horn of Mutual of Omaha and Baltimore Life and AMM and all the great companies out there. Fine, give them their due. But unless people buy you, they're not signing the dotted line today. So look at your closing percentage. If it's 25%, most of the people aren't buying you. It's not because they didn't need insurance. It's not because they didn't want insurance. It's not because they couldn't afford insurance. It's because they didn't buy YOU. I know that's hard to swallow. It's a bitter pill. It's something that we don't want to look in the mirror and say, it was the lead, it was the product, it was the cost, it was something else. No, it was you. It's how you improve your closing percentage, getting people to buy you. Buy you. Ask yourself, would I buy from me? Would I buy from me? Listen to yourself, record yourself. Listen to what you're saying. Are you mumbling through words? Is it hard for the seniors to understand what you're saying? Do they not comprehend it? They're using too big of words? Are you doing all the talking? Are you finishing the sentence for them before they get a chance to finish it? What's your communication like? Would I buy me? Would you buy you? Would you buy from you? Ask that question. Credibility is so important, personal credibility. You don't have a plaque on the wall. You don't have a degree to show people. You're not coming in with anything like the reputation of the doctor, the lawyer, the banker, the accountant. You don't have those letters after your name. Maybe you do. I don't. I'm just Gary, some guy peddling insurance down the street. But by the time I get finished with my credibility statement, Miss Betty's going to be saying in her mind, this is not just some guy peddling insurance down the street. I have never felt the way I have ever with anyone else that's coming to my home. People don't, they won't forget how you made them feel. They'll forget what you say, but not how you made them feel. How are you making your clients feel? How are you making the prospect feel? Are they emotionally moved when you give a credibility statement or when you talk about who you are? Are they? Everybody loves to buy, but nobody likes to be sold. You think about it. Think about when you go to buy something, furniture, a car, a house, clothing, whatever else you're trying to buy. And when the salesperson comes up to you, how did they make you feel? Just reminisce. Think about that for a second. How are you making people feel? So there's the things that we've covered so far. Learning about the market, learning how to connect instead of just communicate, and learning how to have a strong credibility statement so people are buying you. Now, what I want to know from you is, what have you learned from that? What have you applied? What's working? What are you struggling with? I need some people to help me out here so I'll know which direction to go. Hands up, come off of mute. Let me know what you've tried. What are you trying to try? What have you fallen flat on your face on? Or what have you applied and it's made a difference in your presentation and your closing percentage? Anybody? Hello? Oh yeah, there's people still here. Great. Anybody got any examples, experiences, anything you've tried that you've applied, or is none of this really applicable or really interesting or really relevant to what you're doing?
Well, I can speak for myself. The impact statement has been very effective for me personally.
Great. Tell me a little bit more about that. What have you tried to do with that? Are you telling a personal story, or how are you doing it?
Yes, I'm telling a personal story about like, for example, my auntie passed away and her children were young adults and they couldn't, they didn't have the money to properly bury her and things of that nature. So I'm using descriptive words to do so and make it relatable to them. In the beginning, of course, I'm finding out information about their children and names, and I'm using their children's names and how things would look like if something, if they were in that type of situation.
Good, Benita. Very, very good. And you're making really good progress with this. Now, what has been the feedback do you sense from some of your prospects or clients when you look them in the eyes or when you listen to them? What's been some of the feedback, or have you noticed anything?
I mean, one of my clients cried in front of me.
Wow. From your story and from your credibility statement.
Yes, and they lost their own child before, one of their children before as well. And they
Wow.
didn't want their other children to face the burden of what she had to go through.
What a huge impact. What a huge impact that statement and your story made on her. That's really, really remarkable. Not that we're necessarily trying to make people cry, but this is an emotional sale, and emotions can be very thin and be on the edge as we're doing our credibility statement. So really good job, Benita,
Thank
in
you.
taking that leap of faith, putting it into action, and getting some results. Now, as you do this more and more, your story is going to it's going to be really going to become fine-tuned, and you're going to focus more on the impact, and you're going to start using more impact words and phrases. Now, I won't put you on the spot and ask you, have you done that yet? But if you're welcome to speak up if you have, starting using some impact words and phrases.
I have.
Very good. Impact words and phrases, what that does is every word you say to someone means something to them. So I know my market well. And so when I say certain things like, Miss Betty, I've dedicated. I don't just run through that. I've dedicated my life to helping people get things in place before it's too late. That's an impact phrase with an impact word in it. This generation understands something about when you're dedicated to something. Okay. I've committed my life to making sure that I help you get things in place before it's too late. Committed, dedicated, those type of impact words and phrases make an impression upon their mind as, well, this guy is not just a wham bam, thank you, ma'am, here today, going tomorrow, doing this sort of part-time, maybe into it next week, maybe not next week. He's here, she's here to stay. Those things mean something. If you'll sprinkle a few of those words in your impact statement, as you call it, or credibility statement, it makes it even richer and fuller in what you're doing. And then if you'll learn to ask a few rhetorical questions, I love it, and then make it real personal. The more personal that you can make your presentation, where they see themselves owning it. Remember, you don't have anything in your hand, so you got to bring it to life with stories. You got to bring it to life with examples. No matter what you're selling, you got to do that. So, Miss Betty, you know I do what I do for a living. Then you answer that. I do this because blah blah blah. Do you know the best part about my job, Miss Betty? The best part about my job, and this is what Benita said, when your daughter Mary, where did I get that name from during my connectivity stage? She told me the name of her daughter. That's the apple in her eye. That's local, that takes care of her or helps her with her things. I've learned the name. Now it's no longer some arbitrary being or person or beneficiary. It's Mary. If you learn nothing else from me about learning about connectivity and about credibility, is learning how to use people's names and the power behind it. So you know the best part about my job, Miss Betty? The best part about my job is when your daughter Mary is going to call me down the road. Now she's actually owning it. She's wearing it. She's feeling it. She's sensing herself embracing this, because you got to be great at painting visions, pictures. And this is also part of the closing the sale. This is assuming the sale in the beginning. But I know a lot of companies who do this the wrong way. I've seen them. They'll go things like in the beginning. So if I can show you, a good company tonight, and if I can show you a good product tonight and a good price that helps meet your needs and it's gonna pay off your mortgage and stuff like that, is there any reason why we can't do business this evening? Like, what? I mean, that's tough. I mean, I see companies who teach that. I'm like, dude, you haven't built up enough credibility to be asking me that kind of question at this point of the game. You gotta be in there in the game a lot longer. You gotta give me something more than that. Well, let's see here. If I can help you meet your needs, and if I can help you find a good company with the right price, what our goal will be tonight is to fill out an application. We'll submit that to the company. And all I ask you to do, Miss Betty, is either give me a yes or a no, and not even think about it. So is that fair enough? And this is right here in the beginning. I'm like, well, I'm not sure I can do all that. I can't make that kind of commitment at this point. I got to see what you got first. These are companies, big companies who actually teach this in the beginning. I say, no wonder why your guys' closing percentage is 33% as a company nationwide. You're blowing people away. You haven't given me anything to sink my teeth into about you or what we're doing. And you're asking me, make sure that you don't either give me a yes or no. When we get down to the end, don't give me a think about it. Is that fair enough? No. So show me owning it and doing it in a different way than that. Best part about my job, Miss Betty, is when your daughter Mary is going to call me down the road and she's going to say, Gary, I understand my mom had a policy with you. We need to use it. Now, Miss Betty, I'm not glad she's got to use it. I'm just glad you had something in place for her. You know, the worst part about my job, Miss Betty, is when your daughter Mary has to go around begging, borrowing, and stealing and trying to collect money to bury you. Pretty embarrassing, isn't it? Pretty hard on families, isn't it? Yeah. I'm painting a picture. I'm closing the sale. I'm assuming that she's already buying and that she's on it without asking her if I can blank and blank. Can we do business tonight? I'm just assuming it that we are. So you incorporate those kind of things right inside your credibility statement. And then, Benita, you do exactly what you do. Let me tell you why I do what I do for a living, Miss Betty. My father, and you tell your personal story. Give them an impact story. He told his kids, you don't work, you don't eat. He made me go to church every Sunday. Why am I using these things? Miss Betty grew up in a generation where her parents told her, if you don't work, you don't eat. I'm not giving you anything. You're going to work by the sweat of your brow. That's how we were taught as kids. Now, in 20 years from now, I won't be able to say this for this next generation. It's a different world now with children. But I know Miss Betty's generation because I'm part of it. And that's what we were taught. And I say things like, I don't say anything with no purpose. My dad made me go to church every Sunday, whether I wanted to go to or not. You remember those days, Miss? Oh, yeah. No matter how late you stayed out on Saturday night, your parents said, you better get your butt back home in time because you're going to be at church the next morning or I'm tanning your high. And they meant it. That's my market. That's your market. Do you understand that market? Do you understand what they live? Did you walk a mile in their shoes? Can you sing out of the same hymn book they sing out of? Can you preach the same language they're preaching? That's your market. Know them. My father made us work. Their fathers and mothers made them work. We worked on the farm. Then I tell my story of my father passing away at age 49, had an accident on the farm. I was the oldest boy. You know what that means, don't you, Miss Betty? Oh, yeah. You become the man of the house at age 12, whether you want to or not. Now, he didn't mean to. He left my mom with no life insurance. He was self-employed, didn't have much of anything, just trying to put food on the table. But God called him home. He left my mom raising all these kids. He didn't mean to, it just happened. When I got big, I said, Mom, I'm going to go do this kind of work for a living. Now, she thought I meant farming. I said, no, ma'am, I'm not going to be farming. I'll go educate the public about getting their life in order before it's too late. Miss Betty, this is no longer a job for me. This is a mission. It's a crusade. Remember impact words, impact phrases? There's two more. Because I know what Miss Betty did when she was growing up. They talked because her parents made her sit down and watch Billy Graham or someone just like him. They made them sit down and watch crusades. This is what I'm on. It's not a job, it's a crusade, it's a mission. Helping you get things in place before it's too late. But don't ask me anything, Miss Betty, about being a school teacher, which is what you did for 30 some years. I commend you. My hat's off to you. You're overworked and underpaid. But if you want to know something about life insurance, I'm your guy. I'm the expert in the business. Now I'm going to toot my horn a little bit. I'm going to put my credibility out there because I want her to feel like she's dealing with someone who knows what he's talking about. Now you may be saying, well, Gary, I haven't been doing this for 30 years. Like, yeah, granted. But when I first started saying this credibility statement, I've only been doing it just a little while. I've been doing this for a long time. I've committed my life to it. You say what's comfortable for you, but don't lie. I always tell the truth. Now, Miss Betty, listen, while everybody else is bringing your daughter Mary bills, I'm going to be bringing her a check. Because you see, at claim time, I'm going to come by personally, sit down, help her fill out the claim form, get the death certificate in, get the money back. Miss Betty, I'm not a blue suede shoes kind of salesperson. I'm into this thing for the long haul. So when it comes claim time, I'll be sitting right side by side with your daughter, Mary. How does that sound? Fair enough? Great. Let me see if I can find you something that meets your needs, solves your problems, and blesses Miss Mary's life. Sound good? Great. That's your credibility statement. Now you set yourself up as the expert. Now we slide into what we call the need development stage. All right, before I do that, who else wants to share something like Miss Bonita did that they have put into place, they've been working on, they're trying to fine tune it, they're trying to improve their skills, maybe still a little rusty, maybe has some questions. Who else wants to jump in and tell me what's working, what's not working? The floor is yours. Come off of mute. Tell me what you're struggling with. Tell me why your closing percentage is only 25, 35, 45, 50%. Tell me why it's not 75, 80, 85, 90. What are you running into? What's the challenges? I'm open. I'm listening. I'll take any question, good, bad, or indifferent.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes, sir, Michael. Go right ahead.
I'm brand new. I'm so new. I'm green.
I love green.
Great. I have a gentleman who wants to insure his mom. She lives in the same state, which is where I am in Tennessee. Who would be the owner of the policy if they're paying for the policy? Is it the person that's being insured, or is it the person that's paying for the policy?
You can make either one the owner, but typically the payor wants to be the owner so they can control the contract, so they control to make sure it's getting paid, and that person who's insured, who's not paying for it, doesn't either let it lapse or it cancels or cashes in for the cash value. So typically I like to make the payor the owner.
Got you. That
So
answers.
you said the son is paying for the mother?
Yes.
Okay, so yes, you could make him. Now, some companies are a little funny about when you make somebody else the owner of an adult person's policy, but Baltimore Life loves it. I'm not sure which company you're presenting to them.
None yet.
None yet. Okay. Baltimore Life makes it easy for you to make somebody else the owner in the as long as they're related to them, like that situation is. But some
Okay.
companies, when you try to do that, they want to know more details. Why is that happening? Can they not take care of themselves? Are they mentally incapacitated? So I like Baltimore Life when you're going to make somebody else the owner.
I've just got through dealing with my mom's probate. That's
Okay.
why, and I still have not yet onboarded. I'm going to need somebody's help in the morning with that when I go back to it to finish filling in the blanks. I think I did see Baltimore Life on there, or was it Mutual of Omaha? Yeah. I've filled them all out. But Baltimore Life is included as one of the
Yes.
carriers that I can
They are.
use.
They are.
Awesome.
Are you newly licensed and just getting contracted?
No, I've had my license, believe it or not, for 6 years.
Okay.
But I've not been with a company that got into depth in so much as the training goes.
Okay.
All they were concerned with was me getting people into the seats, and I was thinking there has to be more to that than this.
It's just so backwards. Most companies are like that. They want you to come on board and bring all your family and friends and neighbors and all your kinfolk in. It's like,
Yes,
dude, I'm new. I need to get myself acclimated first.
yes.
No, great. I'm glad you're with us and part of our family and our team, and we'll help you through that process. And yeah, Baltimore Life is one of your core carriers they'll get you contracted with. And there may be another carrier who's a little bit easier with that, but I just know Baltimore Life really is easy with that ownership stuff.
Awesome. Will they have a portal that I can use and go into and pull up illustrations?
Yes, they do
Awesome.
on their website. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Who's your upline?
I have no idea.
Okay. Who
I
brought
think
you on? Who brought
Rob
you on
Apple.
board? Rob Appel.
Yeah, Appel. Okay.
Appel, yes. He'll definitely walk you through that. And if he can't, then let me know. I'll be glad to help as well.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Welcome aboard.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yes, sir. Anybody else with any questions, comments, thoughts, suggestions on the first few things we've talked about so far? If you're new on our call, you can go back and look in the archives, and we've talked more in depth on how to learn your market, how to understand the senior market, who they are, how they were raised, how they think, what they look at, how they go look at you, how they treat the market in the industry, what their needs are. I mean, there's so many things in that on that audio. And Michael, I know you're new and some others are as well. We have archived these calls and these training sessions where you can go back and listen more in depth. And Rob Appel can lead you to where they are. Next is, as I said before, was the connectivity stage, and then the next was the credibility stage. Today is learning about the need. Remember, if your client doesn't have a need, you don't have a solution. I say where there is no itch, you don't have a scratch. So you're just making conversation if Miss Betty or Mr. Billy, if you can't uncover what their needs are. So tonight, we're going to talk about how to do that. You're going to run into situations where Miss Betty's going to say, I've already have life insurance. I'm good. Mr. Billy says, oh yeah, I got plenty to bury me already. I'm good. I just saw this card. I sent it in. I was just curious as to what it was. What are you going to do? You're just going to waste the lead money, or you're going to have a different angle or different approach? What are you going to do? It's learning to uncover some needs they don't think they have. So tonight, we're going to talk about that and how to learn to close the close ones, those that are right at your fingertips that you're letting slip through because you weren't able to uncover to need or find a problem and then offer a solution. So tonight, we're going to find out how to do that, okay? That's so important. 20% of the people, anybody can close. 20% of the people, probably very few to none can close. It's the 60% in the middle is where all the money's made in selling life insurance and most products. How much of that can you tap into? A lot of it has to do with not only credibility, but also learning to uncover the need. And so tonight we're going to address that and figure out how to get better at doing that. Okay. So let's see here. Where are we? Step 3, the need section. If you're with me last week or 2 weeks ago, we covered some of this. This area of the presentation is where the mindset, the doctor-patient relationship comes into play. It's the doctor's job to find out where the pain points are before he or she can make a recommendation. If he or she cannot find a problem, then he or she cannot recommend a solution. If you as a sales agent cannot find a problem, concern, or a need, a pain point, then it's very unlikely your solutions will resonate with your prospect. You'll be wasting time and barking up the wrong tree. All right. So last week I talked about this, or 2 weeks ago, it's called peeling the onion, learning how to not just take the superficial answer, but learning to get deep and peel back the layers and find out what the real need is. So today, we'll be talking about that, is learning to do the Socratic method of selling. This is asking questions, listening for the answers, thus stimulating critical thinking. So it's learning to ask questions, which is what we'll do today. While holding the card up that Miss Betty mailed back in, Miss Betty, thanks for taking the time to mail this card back into us. I receive dozens of these each and every week from folks like you who are interested in this program. Notice what I did there. I'm busy. A lot of people are sending this in. A lot of people want the information. People want to be a part of a crowd or a group of people. So there's some psychology behind. I receive dozens of these every week. People are interested in these programs. And it's true, but you want to reiterate that. Let her feel like she's not the only one requesting this information. People like to be part of a crowd and not be a lone ranger. Typically, when people mail these cards in, Miss Betty, they do it for one of three reasons. First is they don't have any coverage and they realize they need to put something in place. They had something on their job, but when they retired, they lost it. You'll start seeing people nod their heads because many people fit in that category. They just retired, laid off or something, quit, and now they have no life insurance. Second reason, Miss Betty, is they have very little coverage or a little bit in place, but they realize it's not enough. The cost of funerals, burials, and cremations have gone up, and they need to add a little more. You'll start seeing another group of people nod their head. They got a little $5,000 policy. You realize it's not enough. The third reason, they have a pretty good amount already in place, but they would love to leave something behind for their kids or grandkids. Something like a little legacy or a gift for the family. Ladies and gentlemen, I've sold more insurance on this third bullet point than you can shake a stick at. People think they got plenty of insurance in place, but they want to leave something behind for their kids or grandkids, like a little legacy. I'll show them how to do that. Income tax free. Instead of Miss Betty leaving money aside in a savings account that's going to be taxed and go through probate, you can leave an insurance policy, no taxation, avoids creditors, and avoids probate. They love that. Of these three categories, Miss Betty, which one best describes you? You don't have any. You have a little bit, or you want to leave something behind for your family. At this point, just sit tight, close your mouth, and listen to Miss Betty tell you her initial pain points. After she's done, now's the time to peel the onion. That's just a superficial answer. Go deeper. Here's what most people are going to say. Well, I just need to have something to make sure I get buried with, so I'm not a burden on my family. And most agents take that and run with it to the races. Why? Why are you in a hurry? Have Miss Betty learn to sell herself without you doing it. People love to listen to themselves talk. They believe themselves when they say it. So, well, that makes sense, Miss Betty. You don't be a burden on your children. Watch this. Why is that so important to you? Oh, I bet you 99% of the people on this call are not asking that follow-up question. Most people don't. They take it and run with it. So it sounds like, Miss Betty, you just want to not be a burden on your kids and have some additional burial. Is that what you're saying? Okay, good. Well, let me kind of see what your health is like and pull out your prescription medications, and I'll see what company is best for you, and I'll figure out some rates and we'll get you going. Okay, a little bit weak, in my opinion. Miss Betty, why is that so important to you not to be a burden upon your kids? This is called peeling layers of the onion. This is getting to the core, the real reasons. You say, Gary, why do you want to do that? Because I'm selling for more than just getting an application today. I'm selling for keeping it on the books. Do you not think that somebody's going to come in behind you afterwards, and Miss Betty's going to invite somebody else in, that she's going to mail another card in, that she's probably going to forget about you? Let's hope not. But if I can get her to voice the real reason why she's doing it, I'm going to harp on that. Well, I'll tell you why. why I don't want to be a burden upon them, because you know what? I buried my brother last year. And that rascal, I tried to tell him that his health was deteriorating, getting worse. I tried to tell him to get some life insurance, and he wouldn't do it. Now the emotions in Miss Betty is roaring inside. She's reliving this whole experience of going through this with her brother after begging him to get some insurance, and he didn't do it. She's reliving this whole story. You don't think that's moving her? You better believe it is. Much more than just, well, I just don't want to be a burden upon my kids. I better get some extra. Okay, that's moving nobody. Remember, this is the emotional sale, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a factual, logical, you back it up with that. The sale part is not. You want to close at a high level? Learn it, peel the onion. Why is that so important to you? Well, because then she's going to tell you an amazing story. My grandson got accidentally killed last year. We didn't think about having insurance on a 15-year-old. You know what? We should have, and we didn't. And I'm still, my heart still pains. But the worst part was we went around to each different family member. And it's amazing. When you need to count on your family the most, they're not there for you. Nobody had anything. But you know what? I'm his grandparent. And I went out and took out a loan to bury that boy. And that hurt me. Not only did it hurt me that he died so early, but it hurt me that I had to go out and take a loan to come up with $10,000 to bury my own grandson. I couldn't even mourn properly because I'm out here trying to go to a banker and trying to get money because we had no life insurance on him. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you, that gives me goosebumps to hear that story. So now I know why it's important to Miss Betty. This is much more important than just getting a burial policy. This is because she lived it. She lived a period of time when she had to go out and actually physically, literally do it. Gosh, Miss Betty, now I understand why you sent this card in. Now I understand why you invited me to your home. Now I can see the impact that made upon you and also upon your family. So if I understand you correctly, what you're really saying is you don't want to just get a burial policy. You want to make sure that your daughter, Mary, and your son, Randy, never has to go around trying to borrow money from a banker to put you on the ground properly. Is that what you're trying to tell me? Yeah. Miss Betty, let me be devil's advocate. This is called peeling the layer of the onion again. What about if your kids say, Mama, don't worry about that. We're going to take care of you. You don't have to worry about insurance. We're just going to do it. We'll do it. Huh. My kids can barely take care of themselves. They barely can pay their own bills. I don't want my kids having to go through. You see what Miss Betty's doing? She's selling herself. But she's also preparing her children when they walk in the door. Mama, you went out and bought more life insurance? What you doing that for? Listen, I'm a grown woman. I'm paying my own bills. I'm not going to put this burden upon my kids. You saw what I went through last year with my brother. Because she's already lived that in her head again, and she's prepared to tell that story. That's how you keep business on the books. That's how you help people buy you. Because you're a doctor, and doctors ask questions, and doctor finds the pain points before the doctor ever thinks about providing some sort of remedy or solution or prescription. They got to find out where it hurts. And you can't do that just by asking one question. Well, why'd you send this card in? No, you do a follow. The doctors always do a follow-up. So when I push there and you say that it hurts, what type of hurt are we talking about? Is that dull pain or sharp pain? That's what great doctors do. That's the psychology of this stuff. And you maybe say, Gary, I don't really have to do that when I close my sales. Well, okay. What I'm saying to you, if you want to close at a higher level and you want to keep on the books at a higher level, and if you want to have Miss Betty remember you, you do this at a higher level. That's what we're doing. I could take a note and wrap it up and put it inside that note. If you want to buy some final expense life insurance to get buried with, wrap it up, put it in my dog's mouth, ring the doorbell, and a certain amount of people are going to buy some final expense life insurance just because the dog has a note in their mouth and it says sign here. I'm being a little bit facetious, but final expense insurance, if you see enough people, you can do enough of that. The lay-me-downs. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the 60% in the middle. That's where the real money's made. Learning how to close the close ones. Now we're going to a layer deeper. This is where Miss Betty starts to sell herself. We don't want to put words in her mouth. This is the beginning of the real pain points. I see Miss Betty. This is so important to you because you love them so much. You don't want them to have to go around asking people for money to put you away properly. I can see why you sent this card in. Makes sense now. Being devil's advocate, going a little deeper, having to go to the real core, uncovering all the pain points. And Miss Betty, being devil's advocate, you've done so much for your kids in your lifetime. Why can't they take care of you at this time of need? I love doing this, Miss Betty, because they're going to get adamant. They're going to get adamant. You put yourself in the shoes. If someone said to you, well, why are you putting yourself through all this trouble? You've done so much for your kids in your lifetime. Why don't they just take care of you when it comes time when God calls you home? What would you say? Are you kidding me? I'm not going to let that happen. Yes, that's what we want to hear. At this point, many times Miss Betty will get very passionate and emphatic. This is where it gets good because she's not only convincing herself, but she's preparing herself in case one of the kids come by and tries to talk her out of buying a policy. She is now armed with the answer. Miss Betty will say something like, I don't want my kids having to worry about the financial responsibilities. My funeral, I die. They have enough on their plate taking care of their own kids. They can barely pay their own bills. I want them to enjoy and celebrate at my memorial service. How about that? Not worried about how they're going to pay for the funeral. Oh, no, no, no. I'm not having any of that. They get pretty emphatic. Plus, here's the story. My brother died. I had to go around and ask me for money. It was only humiliating, but frustrating. I couldn't collect enough to bury him, so I had to end up having him cremated. That was against his wishes. I still feel sad about that. I can't tell you how many stories Miss Betty have told me they had to cremate their sibling or family member, and they didn't really want that to happen, but they had to. You're going to hear that story. When done right, this type of communication from Miss Betty will go on and on. She has now convinced herself she needs to buy more insurance. If you did the credibility statement correctly, she will buy it from you. Most importantly, she'll keep it for many years and refer all her family and friends to you. See, Gary's not into the way I'm down thinking business anymore. And my first several years, yes, because no one taught me properly. I thought, well, set your appointments, set them 30 minutes apart, go see the next one, burn and churn, burn and churn, burn and churn, burn and churn. I learned that was wrong, at least for me. I'm building a relationship. I'm keeping a client. I'm keeping on the books. I had a lady call me today. She says, Gary, I called you up because I want you to see somebody. I said, how'd you remember me, Miss Betty? It's been years. She's got looked at my cupboard and your name and numbers on a coffee mug. So true. I hand out coffee mugs with my name and number on it. You think Miss Betty kept my business card 5 years ago? Nope. Nope. You think she kept the calendar on the wall that expired 5 years ago? Nope. Sure didn't. But my clients have coffee mugs. I'm not telling you do. They do what you want to. But I branded myself. So when they can't find the number, oh, that's right, I got him on the coffee mug. Yep, see how difference that makes in branding yourself, keeping visible books, having her call me with referrals. All right. Well, Miss Betty, I can definitely see why I'm here and why you sent this card in. If I understand you correctly, this is called reducing it, narrowing it down, getting it to where you take this big thing out here of getting life insurance to the reason why, and you got it pigeonholed into here. If I understand you correctly, you don't want to be a burden on your kids. You don't want them going around asking people for money. You don't want them to having to make the tough decision between burial and cremation because of lack of funds. And you want them celebrating your life at your funeral rather than worrying about the financial responsibility. Is that what you're telling me? Is there any other reason you're taking care of this now? Assumptive. Remember, I'm assuming the sale all the way from the beginning. The last paragraph is called doing a summation of all the pain points, nailing it down. checking to see if you miss anything while being very assumptive. You have uncovered the need and got Miss Beatty to agree with her own words. Armed with that by your side, you have positioned yourself to continue forward. How about if Miss Betty says, I have plenty of coverage already in place? You're going to find that. And about 9 times out of 10, I am selling them additional insurance. And you say to yourself, how in the world do you do that? When they say, I got plenty of burial and plenty of life insurance already in place. How are you doing that? Well, before we jump out of this section onto the next, it's important to mention you may encounter a situation where Ms. Beatty already has coverage in place. Maybe she will say she already has plenty of insurance. On the other hand, she may just want to add some more coverage onto what she has. Either way, encourage Ms. Beatty to get her policy so you can do a review for her. You may find she has a term policy and she thought she had whole life. You may find she has a universal life policy that is about ready to balloon, go up in price, or expire. For those of you that are new, a term policy is like bread, milk, and cheese. It has an expiration date. It is going to end. A universal life policy that was bought years ago, underfunded, just with the basic premium, is going to blow up on Miss Betty or Mr. Biddley about age 70. They're going to start getting bills in the mail that says you better increase this premium or lower your face amount, or you're going to lose your insurance. That is devastating to a 70-year-old. Devastating. That's because insurance agents were just selling premium and they weren't taking the best interest of the client. And that is a sad thing, and it should have been criminal, because you want to do always what's right by the client. Now, if necessary, you can show the term, whole life, universal life graph sheet. That is inside the training section in the back office on how to explain how policy works. If a prospect feels like you already have enough coverage in place, you can show them the chart from the U.S. Government Social Security Administration that projects how much funerals are going to cost 10, 15, 20 years down the road. You can show them that. You can also show projective costs of funerals will be in the future based on their age today. Many times, Miss Betty thinks she has one thing, but come to find out she actually has something else. Sometimes she'll not be able to find her policy. Ask her to grab her bank statement, as it will list the name of the insurance company and the premium she pays. From there, you can Google the name of the company, get the phone number, and call the company with Miss Betty to find out all the details about the policy. That's all done very assumptive. This is one of the ways you provide a true service to your clients and your community, making sure they have the right policy with the right coverage, paying the most competitive rate. Look over the policy in detail. Make sure the previous agent did not clean sheet the application. That means answering all the questions no, when it is clear some questions should have been answered yes. That's clean sheeting. The tobacco question is a very common area where this happens. Look at her face amount, premium, cash value, paid up insurance riders. Call your upline manager for help in guiding you through this process to make sure Miss Betty has the best coverage and premium she can qualify for. She will thank you 100 times over. Okay? Now that is part of uncovering the need. We're going to spend a couple of weeks on that, but I want to teach you how to add on more coverage when they keep saying, I got plenty of coverage or I got plenty of insurance. I'm going to hit a couple stories quickly right now. Then we'll get off tonight. Then we'll reconvene next week. So I walk into this home and this gentleman says, gosh, I've already got 30,000 of life insurance coverage for my burial and a little bit leave over for my wife. The wife says, well, I got 30,000 as well, so we're good to go. So they're saying that said, we just saw the card. We were curious about what it would do, and we just sent the card back in. Ask yourself as the insurance agent, what would you do? What would you do? Plenty of insurance, enough to bury me, enough little extra for the wife. Don't have a mortgage, don't have a lot of bills. What do you do? Well, here's what I do. I learned to become what you call a chameleon. I act out or become what they need. So I got several areas I want to go. The first one is, oh, Mr. Billy, yes, What you have is a life insurance policy, you and Miss Betty. Oh, well, I'm a burial guy. Remember, chameleon. I'm going to act out and become something else. I'm a burial guy. You got life insurance. Let me give you some words of advice. You never want your family walking into a funeral home with a life insurance policy. And you may be thinking to yourself, why is that? Well, because a funeral home is a business. Now, I'm not calling anybody good or bad, but their job is to get most money out of that policy to be paid towards that funeral as they can. You know what I'm talking about. So, Mr. Bill, you got a $30,000 policy. Your wife walks into there with $30,000. They see that. Next thing you know, the funeral is going to be $29,995. Your wife's at the worst point in her life. She's very emotional, very stressed out, not thinking clearly. Next thing you know, she's got $5 coming back to her. That's sad. Shouldn't be the case. So what I'm going to recommend for you, Mr. Billy, you're planning on being buried, right? I'm going to recommend a $10,000 or $12,000 just for a burial policy. You've got life insurance there. That needs to go to your wife when you pass away directly so she can pay the bills, maintain some sort of lifestyle, because she's going to lose an income and she's going to be trying to live off of one income. You have life insurance, which is great. Keep that going. That's what she needs. Today, I'm a burial guy. She needs to walk in with a little burial policy just for the burial. Only about $10,000 or $12,000. That's what I'm going to recommend to you today while your health is good and age is good. Does that make sense? He pauses for a second. He says, man, I never thought about that. I says, no worries, Mr. Billy. I've been doing this almost 30 years, and that's what I do full time for a living. I help make sure people make the right decisions and have the best outcome down the road. He said, gosh, he said, that's really, really amazing to me. He says, yes, I'd be interested in a burial policy. Ta-da, the door is open now. I'm going wide open into this thing. And I've sold so many policies. I can't even tell you of people that one lady goes, well, I've got 50,000 now already in place. And I got my 4 boys here and I'm going to lead them. It's about 12,500 each. And I said, yeah, that makes a lot of sense what you're doing there, Miss Betty. I said, you got some good boys and a good home here, and I can see why you're doing that. Same story. But Miss Betty, what you have is life insurance, which makes sense. They got to find some way to upkeep this place here. You got 5 acres, you got a house, they got to pay for the taxes on this place. So that money going in makes total sense. What I'm a burial guy. This is burial insurance. You don't want them to walk into a funeral home with that 50,000 that you're trying to split between them. Next thing you know, that burial will be $20,000, $30,000. They've got nothing to help out with the farm here, and it's going to be money down the drain. But I just recommend a burial policy. Gosh, I've done that so many times, and I've sold so much insurance, which makes sense. I'm not hoodooing anybody, pulling wool. It totally makes sense if you've ever gone through the process of a funeral and know what I'm talking about. Some people say have 100,000, 250. I said, the worst thing you could do is have your wife or spouse or kids walk into the funeral home with that kind of money. That's nobody's business. What you need is a burial policy that pays quickly and only for the burial. Make sense? Yes. All right, so I do that a lot in what I do in my business. Now, next is something that I've kind of come on board with since COVID. And it's really served me well. You know how this morning during our national call or team call, Rob was talking about you got to find a way to have people get their policies out. And sometimes that's not easy because they look at you like, why do you need to see that for? Or no, not right now. Or I'm good with that, or I can't find that, or whatever. So many excuses. So I've learned in sales that if you can appeal to people's greed a little bit, they will sell themselves. So you know what, Miss Betty, you already got a $20,000 policy, and you've had that for 5 years, 10 years now. That's fantastic. Way to go. Way to jump on that and get that while you're younger. Let me say something to you, Miss Betty. Since COVID, they've actually come down the rates a little bit with their life insurance. That is true because I'm selling a priority with Baltimore Life, And if you price that rate on that thing is amazing. So it's beating everybody left and right, that A priority new product. They've come down the rates a little bit on some of the newer products. And the reason why I'm saying this is because you've got a certain amount of cash value sitting in that policy that you've had for 5 or 10 years. And if you don't use that cash value while you're alive, you lose it. So the fear of loss is greater than the fear of gain. Now listen to what I just said. If you don't use that cash value while you're alive, you lose it. It goes back to the company. Your family doesn't get the cash value. They only get the face amount. The reason why I say that, Mr. Bay, you got a policy for 5 or 10 years, the rates come down on newer policies. You could almost have your cake and eat it too. There may be a bill you want to pay, there may be a trip you want to take, there may be something you want to buy, but you got some cash value sitting in that policy. If you don't use it now, you're going to lose it. And next thing you know, their eyes get really big. You may have a couple $1,000 left in that thing. You talk about your car out here is having trouble running. You're trying to figure out some way to fix it. You don't have the money to do it. I probably could help you free up that money. Or one lady, she was sitting there with her roof was leaking water and she had buckets in the living room. And she's got these 2 policies. She had over $4,000 in cash sitting there. Her health was good enough to qualify for another one. And I said to her, if you don't use that cash while you're alive, you're going to lose it. You can qualify with your health for a new policy. And the rates have come down for the newer things. I'd recommend while your health is good, age is good, we look at something like that. We're going to grab your policy. I'll tell you real quickly how much cash value you're playing with. I keep my head down and I'm assuming it. They go jump and get that policy so fast and make your head. So I haven't had a person yet who doesn't go grab that policy because it's appealing to the greed, and it's not really greed because it's their money, but if they don't use it while they're alive, they lose it. Did you know that? Can you say that? It is true. And all they get is the face amount. And I had a lady just recently goes, I'm taking a cruise in August. And I was concerning myself how I was going to pay for the rest of this thing. And she says, you're freeing up $500 and I can get a policy now for about the same price I'm already paying. And my health hasn't changed. I said, yes, ma'am. Go get it. I'll show you. And I'll see what you got in there for you. She went and grabbed it. Sure enough. So learning to become a chameleon, learning to figure out what the need is, learning how to uncover the need sometime. And one last one will jump off. This lady was telling me, Gary, listen, you aren't listening to me. I've got enough of life insurance. I've got 20,000. That's all I want. That's all I need. That's all I'm going to buy. I'm good. No worries, Miss Betty. I say that every time. Don't let anyone rock your boat or get you angry, upset, or temperamental or nothing. No worries, Miss Betty. But listen, earlier you're talking about that granddaughter of yours, Susie, how that she's the apple of your eye and that you love her dearly, and you got 2 other grandkids, you got 3 actually. And you said you're leaving them something behind when you pass away as sort of a memorial for you. I heard you say that. I said, how are you doing that? She said, I'm putting money aside in a savings account. And my goal is to leave them at least $5,000 each. And so each month I'm putting money in that savings account. What type of interest rate are you earning on that? 0.000.0. I said, right, Miss Betty, not making anything, are you? She says, no, I'm not. But she said, at least I put the money aside for them. They're the apple of my eyes, 3 of them. I said, Miss Betty, I might have a way for you to eat have your cake and eat it too. Remember, asking questions, making curiosity statements that pricks people's heart and mind. They want to know, what are you talking about? What do you mean? Well, I said, let me say this. Do you realize that when you try to pass that money on to them, they're going to have some problems. Number one is taxes. They're going to have to pay on that money because you just can't give that to them like that when you pass away. Inheritance taxes, estate taxes, all those things. So they won't get all that 5,000. They might get maybe 2/3 of it, maybe a little bit more. That's number one. Number two is that money you're putting in that savings account, heaven forbid, if you're ever sued or if you owe some people some money when you pass away and they come after your estate, that thing is open to creditors. Number three, it's going to have to go through probate. So they can't get it initially, maybe 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year down the road, depending upon who might come out there and try to appeal the will. How about there's a way you can have your cake and eat it too, but also not have to stretch yourself each month and having to put so much money aside for those 3 kids. How about if you had a $15,000 life insurance policy? Oh, probably about $50 a month. And you instantly open up that account. Immediately it's worth 15,000. You pass away tomorrow, those kids get 15,000, 5,000 each. Here's the big part, Miss Betty. They pay no taxes. It bypasses probate, and it's not susceptible to creditors. Have your cake, eat it too, but free up some of that money that you might need in your retirement years, but only put aside like $50 a month or something like that. How does that sound to you? Her eyes got big. She said, "Are you serious? I'm trying to put like 100 or a couple $100 a month aside in these things. It's gonna take me forever to get there." I said, "Miss Betty, you can have that right now based upon your health. Let me ask you a few quick questions. I'll see if I can get you qualified." Sold her $15,000 policy, 5,000 each going to the grandkids. Did I do her a big favor and a service? You better believe it. You become a chameleon, you listen to what their needs are. You're the doctor. You find out an angle. Life insurance can do so much more. It's varying people, so much more. From savings to legacies to paying off a mortgage to replacing income to doing so many things. So as we go further and further into the need, ladies and gentlemen, we'll get bigger and better with that. And we'll help you close more sales. All right, I went over tonight. Any immediate questions anybody want to ask, throw out? You're welcome to come unmuted or post them on the chat line. Any immediate comments, you're welcome to come off mute and share that as well. All righty. Well,
I just want to say, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Man, that was some amazing stuff. Oh my goodness, man, I appreciate it. It's a lot of things that I've learned, a while back, but sometimes you forget. But just being a chameleon, like you said, man, is so important because they, like you said, they sell themselves. And it's a beautiful thing when they set it up for us. But just remembering those little key things, man, is so important. So, man, I appreciate it. Definitely.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you so much, Johnny. Share that with the Robs out there, a Boyd and a Pell, because they may want me to do something like this on a team call, and I'll be glad to do it. It's because I think a lot of people lose some sales because they get cornered in, I got plenty of insurance, they don't know where to go. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Like today, and of course, I don't want to keep on my stories, but the lady, was looking at life insurance. I got plenty. I said, "Let me ask you a couple questions. Are you buying or renting this house?" See another angle I'm looking at. She goes, "I'm buying it." I said, "About how much longer do you got?" She said, "Probably about 15 more years, got about 75,000 left on it." I said, "What do you want to happen to this house when you pass away?" She says, "I want it to go to my grandson." Ladies and gentlemen, when that happened, Katie barred the door. I knew exactly what direction I was going. Now, if she'd have said, "I don't care, the kids can sell it or let it rot, or there's no motivation, there's no emotion tied," then I might have to try to create that. But she went to my grandson. She wants to keep it in the family. She'll do everything. Miss Betty, let me ask you a question. If you passed away tomorrow, heaven forbid, how would your grandson be able to handle this? Oh, he probably couldn't. Probably have to foreclose or sell. Yes. Now, if I get a $75,000 policy for her, help pay for that immediately, grandkids got the house. So there's things that we can do, just by asking a few questions that can do that. So thank you, Johnny, for sharing that. Something I learned through the years, I used to miss a lot of these sales. I'm saying to myself, gosh, I got to quit being a one-trick pony and quit just like offering just a burial policy. There's so many other things life insurance does. So hopefully it'll help others as well. Anybody else got any other final comments, questions, or thoughts?
No, thank you so much for those gems. We are definitely going to be taking our business to an even higher level because of you. Thank you so much.
I love you, Benita. Thank you so much for saying that. You're so kind and wonderful.
I'm going to use the moniker, the green guy. Can you
I love it.
Yes. Can you use a final expense policy for, is it, I guess what I'm asking is it synonymous with a whole life policy? I mean, what particular articles make it final expense as opposed to whole life, even though it may be $50,000 or $75,000?
They're synonymous. If you're, most final expense policies go to about 50,000 is typically the maximum.
Okay.
Some you can get maybe go a little higher, but most typically around the 40 to 50,000 maximum for these final expense whole life policies. Now, a priority with Baltimore Life will going up further, 100,000 or more, but that's your average. The concept behind the final expense is it's quick underwriting. They take more conditions as whole life, and the claims paid fast because they know they need it for the funeral home or for the burial. That's the concept behind that. But if someone else had another policy, I mean, they could use these final expense policies to do anything. Just cash it out and use the money to take a trip, or cash it out at the end and pay a bill or something like that. So they're synonymous, really.
That was the other question. Is there cash buildup?
Yes,
Got you.
yes, definitely cash value built up in these policies. Yes.
Thank you.
But sometimes if someone's going to do maybe a mortgage looking thing and they need a higher amount of insurance, and if they're a younger person, I may go a term insurance policy.
Decrease.
If their mortgage is just 15 years, I may do a 15-year term for 75,000, get a cheaper rate. So that might be an option as well.
Okay.
Yeah, but I won't confuse it. For the most part, we're dealing with whole life here to keep it simple.
Gotcha.
Good questions, Michael. You're going to be a joy and really a scholar, and definitely someone wonderful on our team. We're looking forward to it.
I'm excited.
It's going to be great. You're going to love it.
Thank
All
you.
right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. Thank you for your questions, your comments, your passion, what you do out there day in and day out. Go out there and have an awesome week until we meet again, same time, same bat station next week. Good luck and good selling.
I have one last question. Do you post these recordings?
Yes, Rob Appel does.
He does. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, he'll post a recording. Yes.
Okay, awesome, man. Well, you have a good night.
Hey, you as well. Everybody take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Likewise. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.